Before we start this show, just a word from our sponsor, 20 by 20 Apparel. Founded in 2015, 20 by 20 Apparel brings original tributes to pro wrestling's classic arenas, moments, and events. They look to spotlight the bloopers, bleeps, and body slams along with the biggest, smallest, strangest, and strongest that pro wrestling has had to offer. Along with their awesome line of pro wrestling apparel, they do offer many services. In the world of wrestling, there are hundreds of shirts, promotions, flyers, social media accounts, and ads. Don't get lost in the sea of parody shirts and display fonts. They can provide professional graphic design services at a reasonable price. 20 by 20 also hand screen prints all the tees in-house. If you would like to discuss possible run of tees, posters, koozies, foam fingers, or whatever, drop them a line. Go to 20 by 20 Apparel. That's the number 20x, the number 20 apparel.com. Now, let's get to the show.
Fresh is the word.
I'm Jim Duggan, got long wood for plenty hoes. I keep it fresher than fresh, but you already know. You suckers bummy, I'm money, I got a ton of flows. My weed loud like a motherfucking thunder roll. Your shit quiet like you ballin' on a budget though. We see your kicks and we laugh and yellin' what are those. You see me shining like a suit on puffy. You know my grindin' shit is too strong, buddy. That's why the dude call money. I be stuntin' like it's nothing at all. Cause it's nothing to me, it's probably something to y'all. Trying to smoke like me, then come and fuck with your dog. Got a closet full of kicks, you can't cop it tomorrow. And I'm fresher than the freshest, you can tell it's in my essence. Bitch, you see the way I'm rapping, yes I do this shit to death. I tell I'm running out of breath, I tell somebody cut a check. But either way you know it's fresh, and either way you know it's fresh. Fresh, we fresh. Fresh, goddammit, we fresh.
Welcome to the Fresh is the Word podcast. I'm your host, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier. And on Fresh is the Word, we like to deliver wisdom through great stories from the minds of bright creatives of pop culture. Through those stories, we like to dissect the journey of our guests and present actionable lessons and advice for our listeners, no matter what career or avenue of artistry they pursue. And before we get into this episode, I want to give a shout out to Knox Money, Bang Belushi, and Foulmouth for the theme music for Fresh is the Word. And if you would like to support the podcast, you can always go to freshisthepodcast.com and just share any of the links for any of the episodes on any of your social media platforms. And also, you can subscribe to Fresh is the Word pretty much anywhere that podcasts are streamed. And that includes Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, pretty much everywhere. And please rate and review, especially on Apple Podcasts. It will definitely help out the show. If you want to contact me, you can always reach me by email at djkfresh@gmail.com. Or you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at KFresh is the Word, and on Facebook at facebook.com/KFresh. And you can also follow Fresh is the Word on Twitter at Fresh is the Word, and that's is with an IZ, Instagram at Fresh is the Word Podcast, and Facebook at facebook.com/Fresh is the Podcast. This is episode 172. The guest for this episode is California comic book artist Emily Pearson, who has done illustration for the following titles: The Devil Within, Sweet Vicious, The Wilds, Snap Flash Hustle, and is currently working on Bonding with Matthew Ehrman. During our chat, we talked about her artistic style, her creative process, Snap Flash Hustle, bonding, communication between collaborators, her upbringing, and much, much more. Before we get into this interview with Emily Pearson, just want to remind you how you can support Fresh is the Word. I'm on Patreon now at patreon.com/freshastheword. For as little as $1 per month, you can help out Fresh is the Word. And for $3 a month tier, you can get access to the Patreon exclusive episodes where I dig deep into my audio archives for interviews that I've done outside of Fresh is the Word for the past decade or so. A lot of good stuff already up and a lot of good stuff in the works. So go to patreon.com/freshastheword and look at all the tiers that are available. Some you can actually be a part of the podcast. So once again, go to patreon.com/freshastheword if you want to support Fresh is the Word. All right, let's get on to the interview with comic book artist Emily Pearson. Yeah, start things off. I've been following you on Twitter for a while. Was really digging what you're doing, but then also you were a suggestion by one of my previous guests, Leanna Kangas, to
Mm.
so I reached out to you eventually after that. But then also I interviewed Danny Lore yesterday, and you were her suggestion at the end of the podcast also. So
Yeah, they're both really close friends of mine. Um, Leon and I both did it's crazy because we both did Black Mass books at the same time that ended up like coming out on the same days, and then we're both doing a Vault book at the same time now.
nice.
So we're kind of destined to be around each other.
Right, right, right. Yeah, and Danny was like, "Say hi to Emily tomorrow when you interview her."
Yeah, I love Danny.
Right. So, yeah, what I like about your work is that, when I look at it, it looks like they're, paintings, but, how do you sort of, what's your sort of inspiration for your style? How would you describe your style?
Um, kind of like uh, I kind of see it as being like a style chameleon a little bit, where like I don't I get kind of bored of doing the same thing over and over again, so I like to switch it up and go from like trying out different paintings to cartoons to like traditional looking comics. Um, just kind of whatever interests me at the time. And it just kind of it keeps me like having a lot of fun with it and really energetic. And I know there's some people that really prefer to stick to one thing. So it's kind of I feel like depending on whatever preference you have.
When you're sort of being this chameleon with your style, how do you, just go about, thinking about what you want to do with a particular character or title that you're working on?
Mm. Well, it depends on, I think, what fits the story and kind of what the writer wants. Because when I was talking to Matthew Ehrman about the book we're doing right now, he was really into the specific drawing I did, and he wanted to have the book being that kind of style, and I was really into it because I like doing different stuff. And then just depending on who I'm working with, they kind of see a different art style fit if it's more serious or um more like cartoony or young adult.
Right. Uh, that title that you're working on right now with Matthew Ehrman, talk more about it.
Yeah, so that's called Bondi. It's through Vault Comics. It's it's going to be a graphic novel that comes out through their young adult line Myriad in 2020. I think like early 2020, I believe.
Okay.
It's a really wonderful book. Matthew's a great writer.
Right, right.
Yeah, he's wonderful. And then we have colors by Kaylee Davis, who is also amazing. There's a preview online if anyone wants to check it out on Vault's website, or it's also on Comixology. It's just like a quick 5-page short to get a feel for the story and the art. But yeah, it's a great book. It's a romance novel or romance comic about two people that fall in love, Marcus and Laura, and they live in a world where everyone has these parasitic slugs on their chest
No.
that drink their plasma and kind of feed their nutrients to some aliens. So it's a really fun story. It's a lot to do with like mental health and kind of dealing with that part of yourself while you're in a committed relationship.
When you're working on titles like these and you're getting feedback from the writers or the editors or whatever about where the comic's going, what sort of what are you looking to put into your work? What do you feel like you bring to the table in doing these in being the artist for these titles?
Yeah, so like a lot of a lot of the story is already kind of out there and written by the time I get the script. So I really try to focus on kind of just showing how the characters are feeling, and like if I'm coloring the book, I'll try to get the mood in through the colors or the line art or whatever it is. And it's kind of like, I feel like most times writers are kind of presenting the story to you and you're kind of the tool that shows it. And so I don't really change the story all that much, but I just kind of help them show it, I guess.
When I was talking with Danny Lore, she mentioned about your work that you really like to emphasize the fashion of the characters. Talk more about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I'm really into fashion. I think it's really fun. It can show a lot of a character's personality. Um, and it's like it really gets a feel for like just kind of the world and how you want the tone of the book to go. And it's just really fun. It's really fun to like to draw different shapes with different outfits. Like I'm obsessed with big puffer jackets because the shape is so much fun to draw. So if you notice in my comics, like every character is wearing a puffer jacket. So yeah.
When you're thinking about like the fashion part of these characters, is this something that are you bringing up ideas to the writer and the editor about this? What kind of conversations do you have about certain aspects like that?
I actually usually start a Pinterest board, and I kind of invite the writer to it if they want to add any pictures or any specific things. And then I'll have like for fashion, I'll have different boards for characters and what their style will look like, and save reference for that. And it's really nice. It really kind of like it gets all your references in one place, but Pinterest is also very addicting and helps you very much to develop a sort of aesthetic or style.
Like when you're putting these like Pinterest boards together, how do you like you know sort of select what you really want to do? Because like you said, it can be kind of like addicting, I guess. Finding stuff that you like. How do you sort of cut that fat down to what you want to do?
Oh my God, I've had that problem so many times. I I had a Pinterest board for one of my books and had four different characters in it, and each character like at one point had like 200 to 300 outfits saved in their folder, and I'm just like, I can't. This is too much. Like I have to edit this down. Um, but yeah, I try to have so many Pinterest boards that my focus is it's like scattered between them, so that I don't get tunnel vision on one set of references.
Right. One of the previous comics that you were working on that I'm currently in the middle of reading is Snap Flash Hustle. It was like this modeling slash drug ring sort of thing going on. What was your sort of input on that? What did you want to bring to the table in regards to how to bring that story out?
Yeah, so the writer Pat Shen and I were talking about doing a comic together, and he bounced all these ideas off me and asked me if there was anything I wanted to do specifically. And just his basic pitch line was like Instagram models that start a drug cartel. So I thought that was really fun. So I did some character designs and we pitched that to Black Mask. So I mean, as far as what I got to do specifically in creating the story, I did the character designs, and then I sent Pat like 20 K-pop videos saying like, this is what I want the world to look like.
Yes, it looks. Yeah, the colors and everything looks like a bunch of K-pop videos.
Yeah, he let me put a K-pop reference in the first issue. I was very happy about it. Yeah, it's just a bunch of like, because Pat's really into pop music as well, so I thought he would be into that. But yeah, so we ended up developing the style of the world, and like I think specifically we wanted it to be very New York themed, which was hard for me because I've never been to New York before, but um, I think it turned out pretty well from what I talked to him about. Very like very specific areas that he liked, like brownstone and stuff like that, that we both put in the story together. So just a bunch of like back and forth. A lot of the time I have like visual ideas for stories like this, and like the writer's just like, yeah, do whatever you want.
How do you know through your artwork in these titles, how do you go about sort of setting like the sort of how the people are, whether they're a good guy, bad guy, a villain, a good guy, or whatever, if you're supposed to take pity on this person or be behind this person? Is there, any way that you feel like you concentrate on how you're portraying the characters through the artwork?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You can definitely make a character kind of give like an evil or good guy feeling through the artwork, just by like there's different ways you can angle a face to be more sharp and uh like scary looking, whereas like rounder shapes will give off like a more of a good guy feeling. um so there's a bit of that, and then there's like if you want to kind of trick the audience, you can give like a good or a bad guy a good guy face or whatever. So it's like faces that are very round and circular almost kind of give off a very trusting and warm feeling. So it's good to kind of like do that a little bit, but then again there's like only so much you can do because it's just how someone looks, right? It's like it's not how particularly what's in the script. um but yeah, I think it's fun for me to try to come up with different designs depending on what Pat or any other writer had in mind for the script, and try to like, either if we want to like have a trusting look for someone, or just like completely give them the bad guy visage.
When you're working in this collaborative effort, making comics, how important is the sort of communication, the artistic back and forth between the other people of the group, the writer, the editors? How important is it, for you to be able to get done what you need to get done to have that communication?
Oh, it's it's like I'd say it's probably the most important thing for me personally. Like being on the same page with my writer and knowing exactly what they're okay with me changing or taking on from the scripts. Like if I want to add panels or take them away or something like that. Like I have to know if they're okay with that, and then I have to know like if I have a problem with the way they're scripting, I gotta tell them, or else it's just gonna be very like you can't ever try to guess what someone else is trying to do.
Right.
It's better just ask a bunch of questions.
Nice. Kind of, going back a while, like when did you first sort of get an inkling that you wanted to be an artist? When did you get that itch?
Oh man, I think like very early high school. Um, I was always into really kind of like creative stuff, like music or just photography or just anything related. Um, but I started picking up drawing, and it was kind of like it felt really good and it was really fun to do. So I just kept doing it all through high school. Um, and then I started doing commission work for people that were looking to get their pitches accepted into different publishers out of high school. Um, I did that for a couple of years until it actually finally worked.
When was the first time that you sort of realized, hey, this is something that I could be doing for a while? I'm pretty good at this, and maybe I can make a little bit of money doing this.
Well, it's hard because it's like you have years that you go kind of doubting yourself if you don't get any like sort of recognition, or if you're not there's a big pressure, I feel like, to get yourself published. And there's this like mentality that if you're not published, you're never gonna make a living, and you're never gonna like support yourself through comics. And I felt that for a very long time. Uh, and there's definitely validation that comes with being published, but I think like when I actually started to work on monthly comics and get into the habit of doing it every day and have meeting deadlines and not having my art look terrible, like that was kind of like where it's like, okay, well, I have the actual like ethic to do this, and I feel like that's kind of what comes first, because if you can get that down, like the skill will come later. But like if you can't meet deadlines or work hard, it's not a job, you know. It's just something that you're trying to do.
You know, what are you kind of mentioned about, you know, having to, you know, have this work ethic and deadlines, but like, you know, what's sort of the obstacles that you kind of go through personally when you were, you know, trying to establish yourself? You know, were you, you know, thinking, which avenue do I go? Do I just try to, you know, be published, or do I work on my own things? You know, where was your head at when you were trying to, you know, get established?
Yeah, it was all over the place. Like I was trying to debate, like, you know, like you said, whether I wanted to draw and write my own comics, or try to work with a writer and get published that way. And it's just, I think a lot of it comes from experimentation and trying to figure out what I wanted to do specifically through that. Yeah, it was. I think I went through a lot of different kind of avenues of art, and trying, like, especially with comics specifically, trying to figure out um, you know, what I would be okay with doing and not doing and all that.
How do you feel now about where you're at? You know, what are your goals, you know, right now in 2019?
Oh man, to finish the comics I'm working on time mostly. Yeah, I mean, I would like to start writing my own comics soon. I keep like putting it off and just like booking new work with writers, but I think I really want to like actually like crack down and write my own comic and story and draw all of it. Because I feel like I hear people talking about all the time how they have these ideas and they're like, I'll do it eventually, and it's like I'm the same way. Like I I I see it as something that's far off in the future, and it's like the ideas keep building, and I eventually want to work on something that's completely my own.
You know, do you feel like there is you know, you have trouble with sort of that battle between, hey, there's these projects here that people are offering you, there's money on the table, in with, you know, these projects that are in your head that you're not sure what they're gonna be or where they're gonna go. Do you feel like there's a struggle there?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's the whole pitch process is just so nerve-wracking, and like having all these like stories that, you know, I haven't started working on. It becomes a lot easier when I actually start drawing it, because all these like anxieties and ideas get in your head about the projects that you're going to work on, or like the stuff that you want to do. And it's like when you actually start the comic or like the art or whatever it is for you, like it's it becomes like all that stuff doesn't really matter that much anymore. It just becomes like something that you do, you know.
Is there an idea that you, or is there a way that you sort of keep all these ideas that you have for yourself, like fresh in your mind or in some sort of vault, you know, anywhere in your place or whatever? Is there a way that like you at least document these ideas that you have for your own stuff?
Yeah, I do. I keep a Google Docs of like ideas that I want to make, whether it's comics or whatever, and then a lot of the time I'll just draw them for fun. Like I do like character concepts or like just like sketches for fun on the side, and I'll keep them saved on my computer. Um, and it's kind of nice because it's like working on it a little bit, but then not like committing to like a full like series, you know.
When I follow you on the social media, whether it's Twitter or Instagram, you've been posting, stuff that you've done. Is some of that just stuff that you've done for fun, just to, do it?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of the paintings I do specifically are just like fun or for studies. I'd say most of it, to be honest. I really like drawing portraits for fun and stuff that's just figures and people that I can get done pretty fast and easily.
Yeah, I like the K-pop ones that you did.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I have I have a bunch of friends online, and one of them is very into K-pop. So, like, whenever we do like drawings together, like we always like put like K-pop like idols for each other.
Yeah, yeah. Blackpink is my favorite. So,
Oh yeah, they're great.
so I was like,
I'm
oh,
personally like a Red Velvet fan, but Blackpink is pretty good too. Yeah.
yeah, I love. What's your favorite?
Uh, Group or
Like group or whatever,
yeah, I like a Red Velvet. I like
Yes,
a Blackpink as well. Um, Twice. Trying to
twice.
think of who else.
Yes, twice is good
Yeah,
too. Yeah,
yeah. It's a lot of girl groups.
right, right. I what's the boy group too? Big Bang.
Big Bang, yeah.
Yeah, I
I've
like
heard
them.
good things about them.
I like them. Yeah, like yeah, when you start listening to like K-pop, especially if you go on YouTube and just let the autoplay fly, like you go down to like a huge rabbit hole,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
and everything looks pretty, and you're like, oh, look how vivid all these colors are, and so pretty.
I know the music videos are like some of like the best parts of it. It's just like completely different style than like what we have in the West, you know.
Right, I love it, and you just like keep watching it. You're like, dude, this is so good.
Yeah, it's great.
So, so you have a book right now that you're working on, Matthew Erman, that we already talked about, and and did Snap Flash Hustle also, and then previously you did The Wild with
Vita Ayala, yeah.
yeah, with Vita, which I've had on my podcast too. Um, what was it like working with Vita on the Wilds?
Oh, it was great. We're hoping to do more of that soon if we can. Um, I think that was like a really good experience for me to have, especially as like the first like book that I did as a first like monthly series. It was limited, but I still ended up doing it month by month. Um, yeah, it was a really good experience. That's how I met Danny because they were the editor on that book.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was a really wonderful story. I got a lot of there was a lot of people that kind of like uh, interacted with me through that, and it really actually I feel like just opened up like all the opportunities that I have now.
Yeah, yeah. Talk more about that because you, with certain parts of the comic book community, there is this real community where, in like I said before, you were recommended for this podcast by two people, and there's this nice community of people who will definitely support and lend good advice and recommendations to each other. Talk about the importance of that and your experience with that community.
I think it's one of the most important things. Having a community of writers and artists that are going through the same things that you are, um, and then rooting for each other when they get really good opportunities, and uh, warning each other about bad opportunities and all that different stuff. Like it's really nice. It's like having just a giant brotherhood of comic book creators, um, just looking out for each other. And they're all like really good friends too. Like I think I think like me, Matthew Ehrman, and then like uh Liana and Danny and everyone, we all like send each other like stupid memes and like jokes and everything all the time. It's just great to like have these people to talk to that like I also really look forward to seeing what they're doing for their work.
When you were kind of coming up as a comic book artist, was there anybody around that you sort of asked questions to, learned from, sort of, was a mentor to you?
Yeah, for sure. I'd say mostly Vita Ayala, when we were working on the Wilds, because they'd been working for DC and a couple other things at the time, so they kind of already had their foot in the industry, so to speak, a little. Um, so it's just like if I was ever worried about something, or if like I wanted to know like uh what I should do in certain like situations, like taking or rejecting work or whatever it was, they were always willing to talk to me. Pat Shan too, my writer from Snap Flash Hustle, was really good because he's been working. He used to work for Zenescope for a very long time, and he'd been in the comic book industry forever. So it's just like everyone's willing to help you. I mean, even if you don't have to be super close to these people, like if you want to reach out to people that you see on Twitter or anything, everyone's willing to help.
Right. What do from your perspective, what do you think makes a good mentor to someone?
It's a good question. I feel like someone who just genuinely wants to see you succeed, um, and is rooting for you and supports you in like when you actually do need the help. I feel like if you feel comfortable talking to them and they they do answer your questions and give you help when they need it, that's a really good sign that they are kind of willing to, um, you know, go further and help you with your career and answer your questions and all that good stuff.
I mean, when you're getting this feedback, how do you sort of process it? How open and honest do you have to be with yourself to accept and think about the feedback that you're getting?
Mm, I think I think if you're asking for something like critique or like feedback on like a work itself, you need to just take all of your ego aside, like no matter how small or big it is, and just listen to the advice because the people are only trying to help you. I mean, unless they're being really rude, um, they wouldn't be giving you advice unless they actually cared. As far as like tips and tricks for like getting your comic out there or asking someone if you want help for like a Kickstarter or whatever it is, I'd say it's really important to just ask questions whenever you have them and make sure you fully understand what someone's saying.
I always like to ask this question whenever I'm interviewing people, and what sort of, when you kind of think back to your life and career, what's sort of a nugget of knowledge, a general lesson that anybody listening to this interview, no matter what avenue of artistry that they're in, they could sort of project into their own life?
Um, I'd say mostly if you're going into a creative field like comics or art or whatever it is, um, you have to remember to actually have fun. Like, I feel like there's a lot of people that start into a career like this because they have fun drawing or writing or whatever it is, and then somewhere along the line they lose that and they just want to be doing it as a job, and like they want to be making it their career, and they forget like the actual reason for getting there for doing it in the first place. And like I think that's really important, because if you're not going to have fun with a career like this, you should probably do something that makes more money. Like honestly. So I mean, yeah, it can be really fun if you let it, but you have to just remind yourself of that, I feel like.
How do you sort of keep the fun in all of this? How do you sort of decompress, recharge your batteries?
I it's actually weird. This doesn't work for everyone, so I don't take this too much to heart, but like I really like to kind of Stockholm syndrome myself into drawing. Where like if I'm not feeling like drawing that day, or I'm feeling kind of uninspired or whatever it is, I'll just force myself like to my desk and just start drawing for hours and hours. And the more I force myself to draw every day, the more I enjoy it. And it's actually genuine too. It's the weird thing, because I actually do really love working and drawing for hours on end. But that doesn't really work for everyone, I feel like.
Right. And kind of going back again, when you were young, when you were a kid, what sort of a kid were you? And like, what were some of the things that you liked to do? And how did that does any of that lend itself later on to your artwork?
Mm, I I drew when I was a kid, but not nearly as much as I do now. Um, I think mostly I didn't really start getting into the stuff that kind of like comics or art or any of that until like I was a teenager. Uh, when I was a kid, I was really interested in stuff like reading and like fiction stories, though. So I do think that like gave me that sort of love for stories later on.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, as like actual like skill sets go that made a difference for comics and like that sort of thing, that didn't really happen till later. It was more just like, you know, having that joy of doing things when you're a kid and like having fun with stories and with creative things, and then trying to get back to that when I'm an adult and like feel that experience again.
What was some of the stories that sort of stuck out in your mind as a kid?
Oh man. Honestly, a lot of fantasy stuff, like Lord of the Rings. I watched a lot when I was a kid.
Mhm.
I was really into Indiana Jones and
Right.
just all these different like, you know, like adventure stories. Kind of really inspired me and really made me want to like, you know, explore, I guess.
Nice, nice.
Mhm.
Before we get out of here, I always like to end my interviews with the same question. And that question is, who is somebody that's been a part of your life or career that I could realistically have on this podcast that would have some great stories or lessons to talk about?
Man, you've already had so many. I'd say definitely Pat Shand would probably love to be on the show if he hasn't already.
No, I
Um,
haven't actually. Yeah, that's good. I've been thinking about reaching out to him.
yeah, I'm sure he would love to. Uh, Matthew Ehrman and Lisa Sturl are really great.
Right?
Um, Kelly Brack is just the most wonderful weirdo I've ever met in my life. Yeah, they're all great people.
Good, great. Yeah, I'm actually talking with Lisa and um, Ermin about coming on the podcast also.
Great, yeah.
So
They're both wonderful.
yeah, I met them one time at one of the Comic Cons I went to, and bought all of the first book of Long Lost, and I loved it.
Oh, dude, he's crazy. He's so he's so good. It's blows my mind.
All right. It's been great talking with you. Where can people go online to get more information about what you're up to?
Yeah, so my social on Twitter and Instagram is emishlyart, EMISHLY. And I post a lot of art there. If you want to reach out to me and just say hi, I'm totally willing to chat it up with you.
All right. It's been great talking with you. Good luck with everything.
Yeah, you too.
So that's my interview with Emily Pearson. There are links in the show notes for this episode on freshthepodcast.com to where you could follow what's going on with Emily Pearson and her upcoming works. Thank you for listening once again, and remember, live life with intensity with a capital 10. Goodbye and good night.
Fresh is the word.